Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman. Ambassador Hillman, thanks so much for making the time.
I'm glad to be here with you, Ashley.
Why is this something you wanted to be at?
So this convention and also the Democratic Convention later in the summer, I'm going to both of them because they are venues where we have a large concentration of political elected officials, also their policy advisors and their strategists. And so, I will spend some time here in this larger venue, but I'm spending a lot of my time in smaller meetings. For example, I'm going to the Texas and Louisiana and Virginia and South Carolina and many other local state policy discussions. I've been invited by either their governors or senators to join them as they're having those discussions. And that's very important for Canada. These are things that I talked about with them as I was traveling the country over the last many months. And they said, well, when you're at the convention, we want you to come to our discussion. We want you to talk about the Canada-U.S. relationship, energy, or, commerce, or whatever it is that there is the specific area of interest.
And I have some questions for you about the content of those discussions and your travels in a moment, but on the bigger picture here, We're expecting former President Trump to come out. He's made his announcement. J.D. Vance is his pick for vice president. You had any interaction with the senator ever?
I have, yeah. I've met him a couple of times. He's from Ohio, as you know. Ohio is the third largest exporting state to Canada, over $20 billion a year. They export to Canada, so we're a huge customer for Ohio. So he's come to a lot of our Canada-U.S. events, and I've chatted with him there. I think actually he's somebody who knows Canada well, who's been very important for his state, who is essential to the success economically of his state. So, and we have already, a bit of a relationship built, so that's good.
Were you surprised that he's the pick over some of the other contenders?
Oh, I think there were a couple contenders there who I thought had a pretty good chance. I actually thought Doug Burgum had a good chance as well. Doug Burgum is also someone I know really quite well because it's a border state, because my grandparents' farm was on just on the border of North Dakota, so we shared conversations about that and our integration. But I think J.D. Vance has been a very strong supporter of the president, and I guess, that's the kind of person he wants beside him.
We're here kind of in the shadow of what happened over the weekend. Did you watch that unfold live on TV?
I didn't. I watched it moments after. I was actually, cooking, but I saw it come on. It came onto the radio, and I went in and I watched it after it had unfolded, moments after. So very, very upsetting for everybody. Very, very tragic for the loss of life.
In the wake of that, we've heard both former President Trump and President Biden talk about toning down the rhetoric and not making it as personal. You are as much, a consumer of the politics in this country, more so than anybody else. Do you believe that that is possible?
I believe that it will require sustained leadership to maintain. I think it's hard. I think it's hard in the context of an election campaign in particular. I think that both President Biden and former President Trump and some of their key senior advisors, like Lindsey Graham, for example, have come out and said and then the Speaker of the House have said we need to tone it down. We need to be more respectful. That is very good for the political environment in the United States, and I think it's very good for getting to the issues that need to be discussed at this time. I hope it lasts. I think we'll all wait and see, but I certainly hope it lasts.
Are you skeptical, pardon me, of the pledges given the rhetoric so far and the level of polarization here?
I think that, I think that people have gotten into a place of not talking to each other across party lines and sort of putting up false characterizations of each other or generalizations of each other. And I think that has led to a breakdown in communication. Not always, though. I mean, we do see some bipartisan work happening on the Hill, and we did see yesterday a group of Republicans and Democrats get together and just sort of reach out to each other to express condolences and concern. So there are moments that are very, I think, for which we should be very optimistic. I just think it's difficult. I think it will require, as I say, sort of sustained leadership to keep that attitude going.
prior to what happened on Saturday, the focus of the last number of weeks has been on the fitness for the job or mental acuity of the Democratic nominee for President Joe Biden. Not yet official, but likely to be official in a few weeks. Do you think Joe Biden is too old for the job?
Oh, I think that that's not something that is for me to apply.
I know you're a diplomat,
Yeah.
but do you have any concerns about his mental acuity as someone who will have to work with his administration?
Right. So every time I have seen Joe Biden, it has been in the context of meetings with the Prime Minister and a few events that I've gone to at the White House that he has hosted for diplomats. And he has always been clear, he has always been effective, he has always been on top of what it is that was either being discussed or what it was, what it is that we were trying to advance. So I haven't ever seen anything that would cause me concern. I understand that there's a discussion out there going on, but my personal interactions with the president have been incredibly positive, and I think he's made a really big difference in this country in terms of building alliances with governments around the world. And I think it's a huge achievement that deserves a lot of credit.
Is it fair to say that your observations on a personal level did not line up with what happened in the debate?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's exactly.
Were you surprised watching that debate?
I was surprised, yes, I was.
Just before I let you go, one more question, and that's sort of on the Canada-U.S. relationship. I know you just came off a series of meetings, the NATO summit in Washington, D.C., where Canada agreed to meet the 2% target by 2032. It's a big deal to Donald Trump, the level of defense spending. If we are looking at the prospect of a Donald Trump presidency, I wanted to ask you bluntly, was Canada kind of embarrassed into taking on that pledge? Because I have interviewed the defense minister, I can't even tell you how many times over the past few years, and was constantly told, we're not ready, we're not ready. All that seemed to change was kind of a public outcry from Americans. Were we embarrassed into taking that position?
No, I don't think that we were embarrassed into taking it. From where I sit, what I saw was a government that developed a plan for Canadian defense, a plan that is informed by the realities of today. That plan was strong, secure, and engaged first, and then it was our true north, strong, and free, which was focusing on the Arctic in particular and the capacities we need up there. That's very much informed by what's happening in Ukraine and the threats of Russia, but also China in the region. And it's also informed by securing our own homeland. And as well, as you know, there are a lot of commitments in there around the Indo-Pacific. So I think that it is an iterative process that we've been on. We've been on this upward trajectory. I think it's 70 to 75% increase in spending over the last 8 years. My numbers might be a little off, but I think it's about that. So I think this is just a perpetuation of that. I don't think it's anything but Canada realizing that we have capabilities that need refreshing and moving towards making those decisions.
I just have time for one last question, and I would like to respectfully challenge you if you don't mind, because I take what you're saying about an iterative approach and the sort of response of the defense policy review that came out, but that was 3 months ago. What changed in those 3 months that necessitated saying, no, we can't reach 2% and we cannot lay out a plan to, all of a sudden during the NATO summit, we do? What changed from my perspective as a journalist covering it was the sheer number of Republican and Democratic politicians who publicly voiced their concern that Canada was becoming a laggard. Was that conveyed to you behind the scenes? And do you really believe that that is not why the government came out all of a sudden to say that they're going to meet that pledge?
Well, I've been in D.C. for 6 years. I've been ambassador for 4. That entire time I've been there, the Americans have been asking us to do more in defense. So this isn't a new thing that they have been asking us to do. And they're not the only ones. We have other allies who have been making the same request. So from where I sit, yes, the pressure was mounting. The pressure has mounted from other countries as well, but that is not how I perceive what happened. What I perceive happening is that our government is taking sort of an iterative approach, as I said. They're also weighing the money that they're spending in defense against the money that is being spent in other areas. And the other thing is, and this is very clear to me, we take a very conservative approach to the way we are going to put out figures that is much more.
I mean, there's no details attached to what they said last week.
Yeah, well, when we are projecting into the future things that we are going to spend, we are much more careful about that than a lot of our allies. And so I think that it just was, as I say, I think it was a process that just had its next stage at the NATO summit.
Okay, I'm taking a lot of your time. I'll leave it there. Ambassador, good to see you.
Good to
Enjoy
see
your
you.
time here.
Thank you very much.
Marella, I'll throw it back to you. I'm sure we'll be talking later this evening.
I'm sure we will, Vashi. Thank you for that.